Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa amma ba'd. Respected listeners, today we read a number of surahs. As we move along now, tomorrow inshallah we'll actually be reaching half of the whole Qur'an. So by tomorrow evening we would have completed more than half of the Qur'an in Taraweeh. So as we are moving towards the end, these surahs are getting shorter, and previously virtually all of the surahs were Madani surahs. And this is a case, most of the Madani surahs are long and most of the Makkan surahs are short. There are just one or two exceptions in both cases. So these surahs are mainly Makkan and they are quite short, so we are reading more and more each day. Yesterday we started Surah Al-Ra'd and today we completed it. In Surah Al-Ra'd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a Madani surah, but it's one of those Madani surahs whose contents are actually Makkah, very similar to the Makkan surahs. I.e., in the beginning Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks about the signs of His creation. Allah also speaks about His knowledge, His power, the angels, and how even the thunder hymns His praise, and the angels that look after the thunder and the clouds hymn His praise. How Allah sends thunderbolts from the heavens. Many of His signs have been mentioned here. And then Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about, here this is the sajda that we did yesterday, Allahu Akbar. Allah Azza wa Jal says, and all who are in the heavens and the earth, they prostrate to Allah, both willingly and unwillingly. And not only they, but even the shadows of men prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala morning and evening. Then Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about how who is the creator of the heavens and the earth, the Lord and the master of the universe? Allah. Then if they admit that Allah is a master, then why do they turn to other powers and other deities besides Allah, who cannot control any good or harm for themselves, let alone for anybody else? Then Allah Azza wa Jal comparing, I'm not going to go through all of the verses obviously, but just to give you a few selected verses, this is the way in which Allah compares Tawheed and Shirk, Haqq and Batil. After mentioning His signs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say, who is the Lord of the heavens and the earth? Say, Allah. Then say that what? Have you taken besides Allah guardians and protectors and gods that cannot even control any good or harm for themselves? Say, Ya Rasulullah, is the blind and the one who can see, are the blind and the one who can see both equal? Say, are darknesses and light equal? SubhanAllah, this is the way Allah Azza wa Jal compares Himself to the false deities and false gods of the mushrikeen. Then, in the section that we read today, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the qualities of the people of intelligence and understanding. Allah Azza wa Jal says that the only ones who take heed are the ones who possess intelligence. And who are the intelligent people? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the ones that we consider intelligent, ones with a high IQ, or ones with degrees, or ones who are educated, or ones who speak very articulately. No. The people of intelligence in the book of Allah are those who possess the following qualities. Allah says, only the intelligent take heed, those who fulfill the promise of Allah and do not break any promise or covenant, and those who honor and observe those connections that Allah has instructed to observe, relationships, and who fear their Lord, and who fear an evil reckoning, and those who are patient merely to seek the pleasure of their Lord, and who establish salah, and who give of that which we have bestowed upon them secretly and openly, and who meet evil with good, who repel evil with good. For these people is the final abode, the gardens of Jannah, which they shall enter, and those of their parents and their children and their wives who are pious. And the angels shall enter upon them from each door, saying to them, peace be unto you, for that patience which you observed, for beautiful indeed is the final abode of these believers. And in contrast to this, Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks of those who earn the curse of Allah, those who break the covenant of Allah after enforcing it, and who do not keep those relations that Allah has instructed to be observed, and who spread mischief upon the earth. For such people there is the curse of Allah, and for them is the evil abode of the fire of Jahannam in the hereafter. See, this verse is not necessarily directed to the disbelievers. It's general, so it could be for the believers as well. That we must observe, first of all, Allah speaks about fulfilling promises. Those who fail to fulfill their promises, that is a sign of hypocrisy. 3 major signs of hypocrisy. Prophet ﷺ says in a hadeeth, the signs of a hypocrite are 3. When he speaks, he lies. When he makes a promise, he breaks his promise. When he is entrusted with an amana, he is dishonest and unfaithful. Honouring relationships means Allah Azza wa Jalla has instructed us in the verses of the Qur'an and the Prophet ﷺ and the hadeeth to behave in a certain way with certain people. These are the relationships that Allah says that the intelligent ones are those who join and who observe and honour those relationships whose honour and observance Allah has instructed, and Allah has instructed that these relationships must be kept and observed and honoured. Now, what are those relationships? Allah has told us to behave in certain ways with certain people. Allah has told people how to behave with their parents. Allah has told people how to behave with their children, with their blood brothers and sisters, with strangers, with the neighbour, with those. Allah has instructed the young ones to behave in a certain way towards the elders, and the elders, Allah has instructed them to behave in a certain way towards the younger ones. Allah has instructed wives to behave towards their husbands in a certain way, and Allah has also told husbands how to behave with their wives. So Allah has told all of us, because every one of us, at least at some stage in life, is a husband, a father, a child, a brother, a neighbour, an elder, a younger. And we all have to keep a certain relationship with those around us. And this is such an important point. People neglect this, overlook this entirely. And look at it. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions salah and spending in charity long afterwards. Allah says the people of intelligence, only they take heed. And who are they? Allah does not mention salah first, or hajj, or zakah, or Ramadan, or fasting. Allah mentions the fulfilling of promises, the honouring of covenants, honouring relationships, fearing Allah, patience. And then Allah mentions salah, and then charity, both openly and secretly. وَيَدْرَؤُونَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ السَّيِّئَةِ, and those who repel evil with good. So, Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us how to behave in a certain way towards others. And those who fail to do this, they are neither intelligent, nor are they pious, nor are they necessarily destined to go to Jannah. But people overlook this. People always think, well, a lot of people think, especially these days, and I'll tell you why. Why am I saying this? Look, Muslims are on the increase as far as numbers are concerned. We number well over 1 billion. So many countries, such a large nation, so many populations. Apparently, our worship is on the increase. People say, oh, there's a resurgence. There are masajid springing up all over the place. The masajid are full. More and more people go to Hajj and Umrah each year. Both Mecca and Medina are full at the moment, as they are for many times throughout the year. There are now restrictions that are placed on the number of people who can enter Mecca and Medina, especially during the month of Ramadan and during the Hajj period. So ibadah is on the increase. Salah is on the increase. There's a greater awareness, there's a resurgence, etc., etc., etc. Yet, despite all of this, where's the harmony? Where's the love and brotherhood? Where's the cooperation? Where's the unity? Where's the oneness? I don't have the answer to all of these questions, but one partial answer is as follows. You see, we have in a very convenient way divided our religion into 2 parts. 1, our relationship with Allah, and 2, our relationship with one another. So everyone thinks that, all you have to do is earn your Jannah and mend your relationship with Allah. And then people don't give 2 hoots about their relationship with one another. And they think this is what piety is about. They think this is what religion is all about. And action after action of ours testifies to this. Look, it's almost selfish. It's selfishness. We worship because we want Jannah. We worship we pray, we fast, we give in charity because we want to feel good about it. We want to feel that we've achieved something. We want to feel pious. We want to feel close to Allah. We want to earn Jannah. But if you look at it, it's always me at the end of the day. I want to feel close to Allah. I want to gain Jannah. I want to feel better. I want to feel a sense of achievement. I want to achieve something. I want to accomplish something. I want to pray. I want to do this. It's selfishness at the end of the day. So we should really ask ourselves, do I love Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or do I just love myself so? So ultimately I love myself more than anything else. And I feel that, I will be happy by getting into Jannah, so worship Allah, pray, fast, give in charity, because I will get Jannah for my nafs, which I love more than anything else in the world. So ultimately it's still self-desire, it's still serving one's own interest, it's still serving one's own nafs. And it's still worshipping the idol of the God, the idol and the false God that's in our nafs and in our hearts. So people have conveniently divided their religion into two parts. One, their relationship with Allah. And that's demonstrated by the fact that, people will come to the masjid to pray, salah. Yeah? And whilst they are in the masjid, they will argue with one another. They will fight with one another. They will care less. We are so selfish that we fight and argue with one another about the way we park our cars. Astaghfirullah, each time I mention in my speeches that people are arguing about parking cars. And Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah and all thanks to Him, I have never been proven wrong. Because I always speak of valid, live, real examples in the past. But it never stops. Today it was the same. Last week it was the same. Arguments in the car park, in the state of fast, in the month of Ramadan, about people parking their cars. Now, have we come here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or have we come to serve ourselves? Because if a man truly came to worship Allah, he would come with humbleness and humility to the house of Allah. He would respect the masjid and its surrounding and adjacent facilities in the same way that he respects the masjid. If he parks his car, so what if somebody else has got a better spot than him? So this isn't a supermarket that you park as close to the entrance as possible, sneak into the disabled area with a false badge. People do it in the masjid as well. There are 2 places reserved here for the disabled people. And amazing, when it comes to going to Asda and Sainsbury's, everyone's disabled. When it comes to the masjid, everyone's disabled as well. And astaghfirullah, people have been stopped here or asked outside the masjid with their badges. So the person comes with a very fancy car, parks it in the disabled spot, comes out, closes a door. Everyone's watching him. Where's the disability in him? Huh? He's walking like an athlete, standing upright like a model, dressed like a model, swaggering arrogantly into the masjid. Hey, 1 minute, where's the disability in you? Oh, I'm not disabled, it's my grandma. So, where's your grandma? Oh, no, she's at home. Well, this is a spot reserved for the disabled people. Oh, sorry, brother, I've got the badge. Listen, it's not a traffic warden speaking to you, that you can get away with it by saying, oh, look, you can't book me because I've got the badge. It's a question of conscience. This is the masjid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who are you trying to fool? And if you park your car in that spot, and then some genuinely disabled person, and wallah this has happened, some genuinely disabled person is brought to the masjid. He cannot find a parking spot. So the person who's brought him, his assistant or aide, parks the car right there in the corner of the car park. And in the cold of winter at night, he brings that disabled person all the way from the car park into the masjid. Now you tell me, of what reward will that individual receive for having parked his car there and come and prayed 10 raka'at dhuhr, let's say 7 raka'at, 5 raka'at maghrib salah. Okay, he may have earned this much reward. But imagine how much reward, how much sin he will have incurred upon himself for having inconvenienced that disabled person by taking his right falsely. If we were sincere in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would be sincere in worshipping Allah, not just in our salah, but in every way. And if Allah Azza wa Jal says, honour your relationships with one another, we would do that. If Allah Azza wa Jal says, fulfill your promises, we would do that. Islam and religion isn't just about salah and zakah. Like I said, this is demonstrated in action after action. Look at the haram. People go to Hajj and Umrah for what? To worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. When people go to kiss the black stone, why do they do that? As part of their tawaf. Everyone will say, oh, to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. Well, what sense is it in worshipping Allah and trying to kiss the black stone, and in doing so, inconveniencing and hurting so many other people, trampling on them, poking them in the ribs, punching them, elbowing them, pushing them to one side, injuring people, wounding them? Allahu Akbar. Where's the ibadah in that? It's self-interest at the end of the day. So this is the partial answer to the question. Ibadah is on the increase. Yet where's the love and harmony? The reason is we've conveniently divided our religion into two parts. So, two individuals are not talking to one another, yet they both stand in the same masjid right next to one another, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and every one of them thinks, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, my salah, my ibadah, I'm so close to Allah, I'm feeling pious. Taqwa. What taqwa? What piety? When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions numerous ahadith that Allah Azza wa Jal descends from the heavens in the third part of the night, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announces that is there anyone who seeks my forgiveness that I shall forgive him? Is there anyone who seeks dua of me that I shall answer his prayer? And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says about certain nights of the year that Allah Azza wa Jal forgives everybody except a number of people. One of those are those two individuals who bear any malice and hatred towards one another. Allahu Akbar. What ibadah? What piety? And like I said, we all have to behave in a certain way towards others. The young should respect their elders. Rasulullah alayhi salatu salam says, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يَرْحَمْ صَغِيرَنَا وَلَمْ يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرَنَا. He is not of us who does not show compassion to the young amongst us, nor does he show respect to the elders amongst us. The elders should look after the young and show compassion to them. And the young ones should respect their elders. This has gone as well. Young men come into the masjid. And we're talking about the masjid now, not even outside. Young men come into the masjid. They will stand in the ablution area. They will stand in the queue for the toilets. You see, these are practical examples. There's a queue of 10 people standing. There's an old man, 60 years old, 70 years old. Now, when people reach old age, they have their needs, they have their weaknesses, they lose their strength. That old man is standing at the back of the queue. An old man. Before him are 8 young, 23, 24-year-old athletes without any problem whatsoever, who could hold their need to relieve themselves for 3 hours more if there was a film on, or 90 minutes if there was a football match on, or maybe even 6 hours if there was a cricket match on. But they show no consideration whatsoever. And I got here first come, first served. Now that's a lack of respect. Etiquette, Islamic etiquette dictates that they should all move aside and say to the man, respect the white hair. Allah respects the white hair. And so the old man respects him and say, this is for you. Go. In a hadeeth related by Imam Tirmidhi in the Sunan, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that whichever young man serves an old man in his young age, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ensure that when this young man reaches old age himself, Allah will raise a young man who will serve him just as he served the old man in his youth. Do unto others as you would like to be done unto yourself. And that means a young should respect the elderly. When it comes to doing wudu, if there's an old man standing waiting to do wudu, remember he will feel the cold more. He cannot tolerate his skin being wet for longer than the young man. He is vulnerable to illnesses, to cold, to the wind. So it's etiquette, and it's an act of reward that a younger man steps aside, gives him preference in the queue for the toilet, in the queue for wudu. When he's walking up the stairs, an old man is walking slowly up the stairs, and young men are barging past him without any consideration whatsoever. Walk behind him, honour the age and seniority. When it comes to the door, open the door. When it comes to the old man taking off his shoes, he's struggling with his shoes. I'm not talking about one individual, I'm talking about any old man. He's struggling with his shoes. The young man can bend down and up 60 times and it wouldn't bother him. Don't think this to be disrespectful or dirty or demeaning. No, that's Western kafir mentality. Bend down, pick up the shoes. That's the way of our elders, that's the way of Islam. That's khidmah. And Allah will reward you for it. And this is the meaning of the hadith. He is not of us who does not respect our elders. And then the elders should also show and when it comes to standing in the rows, make space for the old men. Astaghfirullah. Some people think that ibadah is all about how you stand before Allah Azza wa Jal. And I've seen it in this masjid. Young, strong men, big brutes. I won't hesitate to say the word. Big brutes walk into the masjid with massive Doc Martens and bobber boots. And they come into the masjid dressed in rough clothing, outdoor clothing. And they'll come and they'll stand next to in between two old men. And throughout the salah, they think they are standing in some military parade. The way they pray their salah, they hold their hands. And it's like throughout the salah, they're elbowing, kneeling, they're going to ruku, their elbows are like that. They go into sajda, their elbows are like that. And instead of praying salah, the two old men go through a torture session with them. And this person thinks, hey, there is no one as pious as I am. There is no one as holy as I am. There is no one whose salah is as perfect as mine. Ma'adallah. Sayyidina Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala once led salah, he lengthened the salah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, he was the imam, he told him after salah, the Sahaba say, we never saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam more angry than he was on that day. And he said to Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu in public, أَفَتَّانٌ أَنْتَ يَا مُعَاذَ فَتَّانٌ أَنْتَ يَا مُعَاذَ فَتَّانٌ أَنْتَ يَا مُعَاذ. O Mu'adh, are you a fitna mongerer? Are you a fitna mongerer? Are you a fitna mongerer? Thrice he told him, publicly in anger. And the Sahaba say, we never saw the Prophet ﷺ as angry as he was on that day. Why? What sin did he commit? Who did Sayyidina Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu hurt? No. All he did was that he was the imam and he lengthened the salah. And this inconvenienced one individual. Rasulullah ﷺ became angry. That's not piety. So, when it comes to the row, if there's an old man standing next to you, be careful. Be careful. Remember, when you brush him, ensure that it doesn't hurt him. These are the akhlaq of Islam. Give them preference in everything. That's respect. And then the old should also understand that Allah has told them how to treat the young. The old shouldn't say, well, unfortunately all the old ones have gone, so there's not much point in me saying this, but I'll say it for the sake of it. That the old ones should realize that, this habit of, the young today, they're not like the good old days. All the young are corrupt today. These are animals, there's no sense in them. Look at them. Every one of them, they're worthless, useless. They're pain, they're parasites, this, that. Harking back to the good old days and always forever complaining. The old shouldn't do that. They should show love and compassion. The young make mistakes. Rather than speaking about breaking their bones and breaking their ribs and banishing them and putting them into exile and this, that, and disowning them, they should show some love, compassion, concern. That's how the elderly should treat the young. And they should treat each young man as his own son. Why is it that when my son does something wrong, it's all okay, everybody should understand. But if someone else's son does something wrong, hey, he should be punished. The old should realize this as well. And astaghfirullah, parents have rights. But children have rights as well. It can't always be one-sided. Parents have rights, children have rights as well. And some of our elders are always going on about how parents should be respected. And astaghfirullah, sometimes they abuse this. So it's like the father goes partying with his friends at night, comes home at 2 a.m, watches TV till 4, goes to sleep, doesn't pray Fajr, he doesn't pray any salah actually, doesn't pray Fajr, gets up at 12, has breakfast. And his breakfast is a huge breakfast with a few cigarettes. Yeah? And then after breakfast, he just lazes around, starts abusing the children verbally. And this is his lifestyle. He gambles. He goes out with his friends, does not pray salah, does not do anything. And then one day he tells his son, do this. And the son, for whatever reason, I'm not saying right or wrong, says, no. And then the speech starts. Allah has put the right of the father next to his own right. Allah says in the Qur'an, worship no one but Allah and honor thy father. Lower the wing of humility before thy father. Jannah lies beneath your mother, and I am your Jannah and I am your Jahannam. And if you will not respect me, subhanallah. Believe me, you're heading for Jahannam the way you're carrying on. Forget being Jahannam. So sometimes this is abused by parents. And rights are mutual. Verily, Allah has placed the rights of the father and mother over everything else. Over everything else. And Allah has said, not in one verse, but in a number of verses of the Qur'an, such as وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. We shall recite this tomorrow. Allah Azza wa Jal says, not tomorrow, the day after. Actually tomorrow. Allah Azza wa Jal says, your Lord has decreed that you will worship no one but Him. And Allah has also instructed you to do good and show favour to your parents. Verily, Allah has placed the rights of the parents next to His rights. But parents should be parents. Parents should be parents. Now one day, so speaking about elders showing compassion to the young, one day in this masjid, long ago, many, many years ago, when I gave a speech about the rights of children. I gave a speech about the rights of children. And you know what were the comments? Astaghfirullah. Some of the comments were from the older members. I didn't get to hear them directly, they were relayed to me afterwards by members of the older generation, so that's trustworthy. People in the audience, rather than listening, they were saying, he's inciting the young to rebellion. I'm speaking about the rights of children over their parents, and the accusation levelled against me was, I'm inciting the young to rebellion. I'm encouraging the young to rebel against their parents and to disobey them. And I was only speaking about the rights that Allah has given to children, just as Allah has given to parents. And I related a very beautiful story, I mentioned it. Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, a young man came to, a father brought his son to him. Just like people, they haul their children into the masjid. And they come up to the Imam and they say, Imam, speak to him, will you? Why? Listen, I want him to marry his cousin's sister, but he's not listening. He's such a disobedient child. He won't listen. And you put some sense into him. So he's not telling me that, tell me what Islam says. Tell both of us what Islam says. No. He's saying, look, I want him to marry his cousin's sister from the village back home. Okay? I don't care. I don't want no for an answer. He's giving me no as an answer, but I don't want you to say no. Now you just do as I told you. Okay? I'm just telling you to put some sense into him. He's not listening to me, maybe he'll listen to you. And then if I say, listen, maybe you should think about this, the father thinks, I made a big mistake, this guy's worse than him. And that's happened on numerous occasions. So this father brought this young man, his son, to Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu. And he said, explain something to him. He's disobedient, he won't listen to me, he's disrespectful, he's this, he's that. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu listened to what the father had to say. Then he asked the son, he said, do you have anything to say? He was just. He said, do you have anything to say? The son said, Amirul Mu'mineen, tell me, does the father, just as parents have rights over their children, do children have rights over their parents? Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu said, yes. He said, can you tell me what those rights are? Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu said, it is the right of the children on the father, over the father, that he chooses a good mother for them. He chooses a good mother for them. It is a right of the child over the father that he gives them a good name. It is a right of the child over the father that he teaches him the Qur'an. And it is a right of the child over the father that the father gives him a good Islamic upbringing. So the young man said, Oh Amirul Mu'mineen, well listen to this. My father, has not chosen a good mother for me. He did not give me a good name. Nor did he teach me the Qur'an. Nor did he give me an Islamic upbringing. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu said, go, both of you. Go. And wallah, that story is so beautiful. It just beautifully describes the reality of parent-children's relationship. Now if the young man in his youth, he wants to marry a certain girl for certain reasons, he's not thinking about children. He just wants her for what she is. And he marries her. And then, if he has chosen her for her beauty and for her wealth and her status, or for her kin and family, or for her background, or because she's his sweetheart, then has he also thought about her religion and what will happen when children are born from her stomach, from her womb? A good name. Parents want to give their children names of the Pakistani cricket team and the Bangladeshi hockey team and Indian actors from Bollywood and actresses and singers. Ma'adallah, ma'adallah. And it's quite common. They want to name their children after politicians, after singers, after actors, after sportsmen and sportswomen. Well, names have an effect. And Allah forgive us all, Allah forgive us all. You name your child after an actress, maybe one day she'll grow up to become like that actress. Is that what you want? Paraded before the world, immoral, licentious behavior, decadent, frowned upon by the world as far as morality is concerned, worshipped only by the corrupt of mind and heart. Allahu Akbar. So, give children a good name. Number 3, teach them the Qur'an. And this is where we go wrong. Give them an Islamic upbringing, both are related. All we are bothered about is education, not even education, degree. University, college. School, college, university, degree, education, job, career. Become a liar. That's all we bothered about. A lot of the older generation. And then, well, that's what's going to become a liar. That's exactly what he's going to become, a liar. Now, 25 years this is pumped into the children. They grow up on a diet of chips, Coke, burgers, McDonald's, big fries, American films, cartoon, comics, and seeing the family example at home, the father and the mother, school, college, university, work, and then at the age of 25, 30, the father says, now, mashallah, my son is going to behave with me like a dutiful, innocent Muslim child. It's not going to happen. All that rubbish and filth that has been put into their head over 25 years of Western indoctrination, Kafir indoctrination. I'm not saying there's no harm in becoming a lawyer. I'm not saying there's any harm or sin in becoming a lawyer or in being educated. People often accuse me of discouraging the young from educating themselves. That's not true. The law of Islam is, look, do what you want, as long as it's halal. And sometimes things may be halal in themselves. But if in order to get to one halal, you are surrounded by 99 haram things, I'm not going to say whether it's halal or haram. That thing remains halal, but the other 99 things remain haram. But if you possess intelligence, and if you are wise, and if you know what's good for your dunya and your akhirah, you make your own choice. Is it worth it? Is it worthwhile? Is it worthwhile going for one thing which is halal and committing 99 sins in the process? So, I'm not talking about education. I'm not talking about whether these things are good or bad. That's another topic altogether. I am not one to discourage people from education. And I don't say this in a boastful or arrogant way. My speech in itself, my manner of speaking, should be a testimony in itself to the fact that why would I be against people educating themselves? No. But what I'm trying to say is this, that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu said, give your children an Islamic upbringing and teach them the Qur'an. And if all along parents are only bothered about their children's secular education and their careers, and they are not bothered about their Qur'an and their Islamic upbringing, then when they grow up, unfortunately they will be bereft and devoid and empty of any Islamic input. And then to expect them to behave like model Muslim children after 25 years of kafir indoctrination, it's to expect the impossible. It's to expect miracles. And miracles do exist, but they don't exist in every house every day. So, Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us to observe the rights of others and behave in a certain way with different people. Allah has said the young should behave with the elderly in a certain way. And the young should obey their parents. They should respect them. And unfortunately, that's also a miss today. Children do not listen to their parents or obey them. And they cause grief and harm to their parents and hurt. And if they do, then they should realize that indeed the Jannah lies beneath a mother's feet. And verily the father is a door to Jannah. Open it or close it. And one should respect one's parents. And we're in the month of Ramadan. People think that Ramadan is about everything. No, I'll relate one hadith. It's so beautiful because it encompasses the beauty of Islam. Your duty to Allah, your duty to Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and your duty to other people. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ascended the minbar. So, hadith related by Imam Hakim in his Mustadrak. He ascended the minbar, said Ameen. Ascended the second step, said Ameen. Ascended the third step, said Ameen. Sahaba radiyallahu anhum after the khutbah said to me, Ya Rasulullah, today we saw you do something that we've never seen you do before. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Jibreel alayhi salatu salam came to me, and when I put my foot on the first step, he made a dua and I said Ameen. When I put my foot on the second step, he made a second dua and I said Ameen. Third step, I made a third dua. He made a third dua and I said Ameen. The first dua he made was as follows. He said, Ya Rasulullah, may that person be removed from and distanced from the mercy of Allah, who finds the month of Ramadan, yet the month of Ramadan passes and he is still unable to earn Allah's forgiveness and Allah's mercy through his ibadah in the month of Ramadan. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Ameen. Then he said, Ya Rasulullah, may that person be distanced and removed from the mercy of Allah whose presence your noble name is mentioned, yet he does not say salat and salam upon you. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ameen. And the third dua, Jibreel alayhi salatu salam said, Ya Rasulullah, may that person be distanced and removed from the mercy of Allah who finds either one or both of his parents in the dunya, and yet he is still unable to earn Jannah through serving them. Prophet ﷺ said, Ameen. So the huquq of parents are important. And everyone's huquq are important. I said about relationships, the elderly should treat the young with compassion. The young should treat the elderly with love and respect. And it's not just about the young and the old, parents and children, parents, brothers and sisters, relatives, neighbours, even the neighbours. This idea that as long as I mend my relationship with Allah, it doesn't matter. I pray tahajjud and I pray, I fast and I do this and I do that. I go for hajj and I go for umrah. Astaghfirullah. Forgive me for saying this. But the other day in this masjid, an argument took place. It wasn't very public, but it was between two individuals in this masjid. Now, I'm not talking about who's right and wrong, forget that. But an argument erupted. In this masjid, in the month of Ramadan, in Taraweeh Salah, in Isha Salah. You know for what? Who took whose space? Who took whose space? So two people sat together, and there was a lack of space, shortage of space, and they were both quite tightly sitting next to one another. So they started arguing. One of them said to the other, they started arguing. One said, that's my spot. No, I came here first. No, I came here first. No, I got here first. You should move over there. No, I got here first. You should move over there. Khair. This was before Isha Salah and before Taraweeh. They want the prime spot for Taraweeh Salah. And in their argument, astaghfirullah, one of them called the other khabeeth, and he called him a munafiq. In the masjid of Allah before Isha Salah. Then, mashallah, they prayed the whole Isha Salah and the whole of Taraweeh standing next to one another. And they didn't apologize, nothing. I'm saying, before Isha they argued, and one called the other khabeeth, and one called the other munafiq. And that was just two of the things that were said to one another. Wallahu a'lam, they said so much more. And they prayed the whole Isha Salah and Taraweeh. Now, I'm not judging them, I'm just using this as an example. This isn't ghiba because I don't think any of you know who I'm referring to. Like I said, it was a very stifled argument. Anyway, what kind of mentality is it that we have that it does, as long as I mend my relationship with Allah, as long as I mend my relationship with Allah, we pray Qur'an and we fast and we pray and we do all this and we think, Alhamdulillah, I'm so pious, I'm doing so well. But little do we realize how we destroy and forfeit our rewards by hurting others. Now I'll just mention another hadith which I mentioned in the Urdu speech. This hadith, subhanAllah, we should, every one of us should memorize this hadith. It says so much. It says so much. Once the Prophet ﷺ was told by the Sahaba about a woman who was famous for her excessive salah and for her excessive fasting. She fasted so much and she prayed so much. Can you believe it? The Sahaba, she was renowned amongst the Sahaba. She became famous amongst the Sahaba. And the Sahaba began marveling at her ibadah and saying, MashaAllah, she prays so much salah and so much, she keeps so many fasts. She earned a famous name amongst the Sahaba for her excessive ibadah, for her excessive nafil salah and for her excessive nafil fasts. So they praised her to such an extent that they commented on her excessive nafil ibadah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Said, Ya Rasulullah, MashaAllah, Fulana, she's become famous. She prays during the night, she fasts during the day, and she's become famous because of her excessive salah and her excessive fasting. But Ya Rasulullah, she has one weakness. She hurts and inconveniences her neighbor. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says she is in the fire of Jahannam. She is in the fire of Jahannam. Allahu Akbar. Her salah and her ibadah and her fasts are meaningless because she inconveniences her neighbor. Now who's a neighbor? The neighbor is not the father, not the mother. The neighbor is not a son or daughter. The neighbor is not a blood brother or sister. The neighbor is not an uncle or aunt. The neighbor is not the husband. The neighbor is not the wife. The neighbor is just a stranger. Yet because of inconvenience and neighbor, the Prophet says she's in the fire of Jahannam. Then the Sahaba mentioned another woman. They said, Ya Rasulullah, there's another woman. She's not famous for her excessive nafil ibadah or her fasting or for her prayers. But Ya Rasulullah, there's one very good quality in her. She honors the rights of her neighbor. Prophet ﷺ said, she is the one who will go to Jannah. She is a woman of Jannah. Now, this hadith, it just explains perfectly about the rights of other people. Now the neighbor is a stranger. Yet, this is our attitude. Allah has told us to behave in a certain way. In the Qur'an, there are verses in the Qur'an that tell us how to behave. You know who? وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. We have to behave in a certain way towards a traveller. We have to behave in a... people don't take notice of this anymore. There was a time when people acted on the character of Islam. If a stranger came to the village or to the town or to the masjid, people would know this is a stranger. And they would act on the verse of the Qur'an that honor the traveller and treat him with respect and kindness. He has a right over you. So they would go to the visitor in the masjid and they would say that, where are you from? Why are you here? And what can we do to assist you? And if you are travelling, then you be our guest for 3 days. They will either house him in the masjid and bring food to the masjid, or they will take him home and honour him as a guest for 3 whole days. Astaghfirullah. I don't say this in any bad way. Forget the traveller. These days people aren't bothered whether the Imam has eaten or not. People aren't bothered whether the Imam has drunk a glass of water or not. People aren't bothered. They pray in salah behind him, but they're not bothered about whether he's eaten. Alhamdulillah, I'm not talking about myself. I'm looked after, don't worry. I'm looked after. I'm just saying that there have been cases. There have been cases. So forget a traveller. Forget a traveller. People aren't bothered. There was this character of Islam. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla has said it in the Qur'an. This isn't some unknown hadith or hadith that only a few people of knowledge know. It's a verse of the Qur'an. Allah says, وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ. Allah also says, وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ. The distant neighbour. وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ, and the companion. Now, a lot of people don't understand what that means. Allah says, honour your parents, your this, and your neighbour. And وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ. What does وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ mean? Al-Jar al-Junub means the distant neighbour. And was-sahib bil-jam means a companion. Now let me tell you who these two are. Al-Jar al-Junub, you see, your neighbour is the one whose door is right next to yours. Then it's the second neighbour, then the third neighbour. But the one whose door is next door to you, he has more right over you than the second one. And that second one has more right over you than the third one. Now, al-jari al-junub means a distant neighbour, i.e., he may not live next door to you, nor a few doors away from you, but he lives in your neighbourhood. So he's your neighbour of a distance. So he may live opposite you, he may live in the next street, he may live in your neighbourhood. The fact that he lives in your neighbourhood gives him a certain right over other people, over you. Now, how many people actually consider that? How many people actually consider? That's a verse of the Qur'an. وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ. Your distant neighbour has more rights over you than a stranger. And وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ. Your companion. What does companion mean? Someone who's not your neighbour. Someone who's not from your family. So he is actually a stranger. But he's your companion because every day or every few days you actually get to see him. And what does that mean? That means everybody that you have some interaction with on a regular basis. When you go to the masjid, you see another musalli. Now, you don't live close by. He comes from one part of Birmingham, you come from another part of Birmingham. But you meet in the masjid. He's not your friend, he's not your colleague, he's not your relative, but you see one another in the masjid. Now, because you see one another in the masjid, he is your companion. He actually has more rights over you than a complete stranger. Your work colleague, and we're talking about Muslims here, your work colleague who is a Muslim has more rights over you than anybody else than other strangers because he's your companion. So much so that if you're travelling together, so if you go on the bus each day or you go on the train each day and there's another Muslim, that Muslim, by virtue of him travelling with you every day and you meeting regularly, actually becomes your sahib bil-jam, your companion. Now he has more rights over you than a complete stranger. How many people observe that? Now this is, I started by just commenting on one verse that Allah Azza wa Jalla says, the ones who possess intelligence and the ones who will go to Jannah are those who honour their promises and those who observe the relationships that Allah has instructed that they should be observed and honoured. Now that's Islam in its entirety. The rights of Allah and the rights of one's fellow human beings. A man honours his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he also observes his relationship with other people. Only then will a person's religion be complete. There is no concept in Islam of sorting yourself out with Allah and ignoring the rest. There is no such concept. And people think that yes, in making my Jannah I can destroy another person's dunya. Forever, impossible. Forget destroying another person's dunya. You hurt one other person for one small thing, you will have to answer for it on the day of reckoning. And if you have hurt him sufficiently, watch, as the hadith of Sahih Muslim says, you will come with your salah and your reward of your prayers and the reward of your charity and the reward of your fasts. But because you have wronged him, he will take away everything. He will take away everything. You will be left there staring. It makes sense to observe our relationship with one another. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand. I spoke about those 3 days, the guests. The other Imams do not believe this, but Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi alayhi actually has a mas'ala. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he has actually given a fatwa and he has a mas'ala in his fiqh. He says that it's wajib. The other ulama say it's sunnah and it's akhlaq to honour the guest. It's akhlaq to honour the guest for 3 days who is a traveller from outside. Let's say there's a village and a traveller comes in from outside. It becomes the collective duty as a sunnah and as a matter of akhlaq and character, according to the other imams, that they should honour him as a guest and entertain him. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal says it's wajib upon them. It's actually an obligation. So if they don't do it, the whole village will become sinful. The whole village will become sinful. And because it's an obligation, and if they fail in that obligation, that guest, according to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahmatullahi alayhi, actually has a right. That for 3 days, he can take anything he wants from anyone's house. He can take anything from anyone's house or from any stall or shop. Now watch it. If there's a humbly visitor, you've had it. If there's a humbly visitor who knows this masla, and mind you, if you've got one of these chaps who doesn't follow, well, forgive me for saying this, but who just takes and picks some mixes, and if he catches on to something like this, and you don't treat him with honor, believe me, he's going to rob you for 3 days. He's going to clean you out. I mean, that shouldn't happen, but I'm saying, just look, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal says he actually has a right that for 3 days, because the people of the village or the locality have not honored their duty and obligation, alhamdulillah, he with a clear conscience can eat and take from anywhere he wants. He can walk into any shop, any stall, and he can take what he wants. Of course, to valid measure. You know, he can't be putting bread in his pocket. In his mouth, yes, but not in his pocket for future. But subhanAllah, what a mas'ala. Now that just shows how great a duty it is. But no, just as people don't know this mas'ala about Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, people don't even know the obligation of treating the guest. Because we think Islam is all about, feed yourself, look after yourself, look after your own. And then once you've done everything, harmed and hurt so many other people, pray salah. And all will be done. Never. May Allah give us the tawfiq to understand. I apologize for keeping you here for this long, but remember, there is no imposition or obligation. People are free to come and go. So don't blame me if you've chosen to sit and now you're complaining. It's entirely of your choice. But it's not like salah. Somebody said, well, Sayyidina Mu'adh radiyallahu anhu, he was called a fitna monger for lengthening the salah. The thing is, salah, once you join, you can't leave. This is open. If you want to leave, you leave at any time. But I didn't intend to keep you for this long, but I do apologize. May Allah give us tawfiq to understand. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala abdihi wa rasuli nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.
This lecture was given by Shaykh Abu Yusuf Riyadh al-Haq and has been presented to you by Al-Kawthar Productions. For further information, additional lectures and books, contact us on 0121 773 5191 or alternatively by post at Al-Kawthar Productions, P.O. Box 6008, Birmingham, B10 0UW, United Kingdom, or visit our website at www.alkawtharacademy.org. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.